And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WGC Workday Championship DraftKings show. So, normally we have our normal show with me and Glenn breaking down the DraftKings slate. Unfortunately, Glenn couldn't be here this week. And then yesterday, the whole accident with Tiger happened. Prayers to him. So I didn't feel right doing a DFS pick show last night, which I was going to do. Decided to push it back until tonight. So now we are here. So since I didn't have any previous content for the tournament this week, and since I was going to do a live stream anyway, decided I would just combine it into into one show here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about all my DFS picks for the week, who I like from each tier, each range. And then what we're going to do is, as we're going, I'll answer any and all questions that people in the comments have. So if you have a question, just be sure to throw it in. Pretty casual live stream here. Just going to talk golf, going to talk about the tournament. First, just wanted to remind everyone about Thrive Fantasy, a partner of Burd. Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports app for player props. You can play it for golf this week. You don't have to worry about cut sweat, as there's new contests each day. Basically, you got to pick a certain amount of props to be in your lineup. For golf, it is 5 out of the 10 props that they show you. You get a certain amount of picks for each prop, and the person with the most points at the end of the day, or at least in a top percentage, wins prizes, guaranteed $75,000 in prizes weekly for Thrive. You could get a deposit bonus up to $50 with a minimum deposit of 20 or more with the promo code BURD, BURD. Be sure to check that out as well. You can download Thrive App Store, Play Store. Check it out on thrivefantasy.com. So here we go, talking about WGC Workday Championship. A little bit different this week, and I'll tell you why. First of all, we got the course here, the Concession Golf Club in Bradenton, Florida. So the problem with this is that there's no past data from other tournaments. Why? Because the PGA has never had a tournament here, and that's semi-problematic for doing research. So basically what we had to do this week, we had to dig into the course details, dig into each hole and say, you know what? All right, there's no past data here, but here are the stats that I think are going to work at this course this week. Par 72, 7,474 yards. So very long course here. Usually this tournament's in Mexico, but because of COVID, they relocated it to Florida this year. Bermuda grass. So the only data we have here really from the past is that Bryson De Chambeau won the 2015 NCAA championships here. This is a Jack Nicklaus course. He's one of the creators of this course. There's actually a filter for it on Fantasy National, which helps out a lot because a lot of Nicklaus courses, they do play similarly. So I think that does help in terms of research for sure. Now, in terms of the course breakdown here, we got 4 par 5s, and they're all pretty long. As I said, long course this week. You got hole 3, which is 577 yards, hole 7, which is 606 yards, hole 13, which is 545 yards, hole 17, which is 590 yards. We got, in terms of par 4s and their distances, we got 5 par 4s between 400 and 450 yards, 3 par 4s between 450 and 500. In terms of par 3s, now this is very interesting. 3 out of the 4 par 3s are over 200 yards. So you got some monster par 3s here. Hole 4, 237 yards. Hole 11, 211 yards. Hole 14, 222 yards. Hole 6 is the only par 3 that's under 200 yards at 183. Other just nuggets about this course. Fast greens, lots of water. Could be tough if the wind is blowing. Per Golf Digest, they said that if the wind is blowing, this is a quote from one of their directly from one of their articles. They said if the wind is blowing, that the winning score will probably be around 7, 8, 9 under. You could see a really tough course. If the wind is not blowing, you could see 17, 18, 19, 20 under. So it's all going to depend on whether the wind's blowing. Looked at the forecast. It looks like we're going to get not too bad of wind. So I don't think it'll play that tough this week. Once again, if you're watching this right now, be sure to throw any questions in the chat. So now I spoke a little bit about the course. Now I want to go to what stats are going to be important this week, what stats I put in my model on Fantasy National Golf Club. So we usually go through this each week. Me and Glenn, we talk about the differences in our model. So here's the model that I created on Fantasy National for this week. So I weighted driving distance at 20%, which is tied with approach also at 20% for the most I weighted this week. Obviously, I always weight approach in my model. Driving distance, though, I'm rating it 20% this week. Glenn's usually the huge driving distance guy. I'm staying, I mean, I'm also a big driving distance guy for this week also. So I'm going to read you a quote from Paul Azinger in a Golf Digest article. He said, quote, "If you see the golf course from a 310-yard carry distance off the tee, it's not very hard. If you carry it around 280s to 290s, anything under 300, it becomes a very difficult course. You basically have 5 dangerous shots out there. The three of those are eliminated for a guy who flies it 310 or more. Those guys will get 6 sand wedges in their hands, and then you have the 4 par 5s. That's 10 sand wedges. If they happen to lay up, but they ought to reach those par 5s most of the time. From a bomber's eye, it's not that difficult." So what he's saying, obviously, is that it favors the guys who hit the ball long. You got so many guys on tour that hit the ball long, but obviously they're the ones who hit it further than others, and those guys are going to be in a better position this week to win. So driving distance 20%, off the strokes gained off the tee, so weighting that driving distance even more there, and just off the tee in general. 15% approach, as I said before, 20% strokes gained par 5s. There's 4 par 5s. They're going to be important. That's 8%. Strokes gained on par 4s, 450 to 500. That's 7%. Proximity 150 to 175, 7%. Proximity 200 plus, 5%. So my whole idea on this is that last week of the Genesis, it was a pretty long course as well. Probably close. I think it was close to 7,400 yards. This is a little bit over 7,400. The most frequent shot was proximity 150 to 175. Even though we don't have course data, I assume that that'll be similar, and I assume that proximity 200 plus will also be important for those par 5s. That's why I decided to weight those 7 and 5% respectively. Strokes gained putting 5%, strokes gained around the green 5%. Don't think either one is going to be, well, we never weight putting significantly, but the greens are lightning, so putting is obviously always important. It's hard to predict putting. It's not a very great predictive measure. Strokes gained around the green, as I said, mattered a lot last week. I don't think we'll get it mattering that much this week. There are a lot of sand traps, but so maybe I should have weighted sand saves a little bit, but around the green, not too worried about it. 5%. They said the grass around the greens is very, very nice, so a lot of people don't have much of an issue there. And then proximity 175 to 200 at 3% as well. So again, I entered this into Fantasy National Golf, and like I said before, you have you just have your regular mixed condition model that I use, and then you also have a Nicklaus course filter. So basically what it would do is, instead of just last 24 rounds in general, it brought up the best golfers from the previous 24 rounds at a Nicklaus course. So that helped me a little bit distinguish between guys I liked and guys I didn't like this week. And we're going to move right into this. Guys in the 10K range that I like this week. So we got our 10K range scrolling on the bottom. There are 3 guys that I am zeroed in on this week. Dustin Johnson at 11,600, projected ownership per Fantasy National Golf, 15.9%. John Rahm I like at $11,000, 19.2%. Patrick Cantley at $10,000, 17.3%. Like all 3 of those guys this week. Let me just get into it here. So, I mean, I think in terms of Dustin and John Rahm, these are guys that are going to perform well every week. They're very safe plays. I always feel comfortable having them. Obviously, they're going to come with ownership, but you have John Rahm, who is tied with Xander Schauffele, is ranking 2nd in my model. Xander, I am shying away from this week in terms of DFS. Will he always finish high? Yes. Does he excel in, when there's no cut? Yeah. But he never gets cut anyway. In terms of Xander, I'm shying away from him a little bit because I'm starting to think that the win equity is not there as much as maybe they're letting it off to be. He hasn't won since 2019. He's basically a glorified Tony Fenow. Him and Fenow are very, very much in the same boat right now, except for you can get Fenow at 9,800 and you get Xander at 10,800. So there's the reason why I like Fenow better, but we're going to get to Fenow when we talk about the 9K range. Justin Thomas, I'm staying away from this week. I'm betting Justin Thomas because you get him at 18-1. I don't think you're ever going to see Justin Thomas that low again. So I think it's worth it to take him at 18-1. However, I probably will not be playing him in DFS this week. Probably not going to get an ownership discount either on him. And I'm a little bit worried. He literally lost strokes everywhere last week. I know he's JT, but he hasn't done that in like 5 years. So I think it is slightly problematic. Rory, his game is somewhat broken for Rory. So I am staying away there. Now, Cantley has been playing unbelievable lately. So if I didn't mention it already, John Rahm ranks 2nd in my model this week. Dustin Johnson ranks 4th in my model. Cantley comes in at 8th in my model. So starting out with Dustin Johnson here. Driving distance, obviously great. Ranks 3rd in the last 24 rounds. Approach, 2nd in the last 24 rounds. Strokes gained, 400 on par 4s, 400 to 450. He's 1st in that. Look, there's 5 holes. in terms of the distance of 400 to 450, that's going to be an important stat this week. So, I mean, look, Dustin hits all the indicators, and even if he didn't, he's Dustin Johnson. He's just been playing phenomenal. I know last week he kind of fell apart on Sunday. That's not usually the normal. So I do like Dustin Johnson. John Rahm, again, another guy who's going to hit the ball far. He kills the par fives, fourth in strokes gained, par five. Then in all, basically just across the board, he's high up. Not going to get too much into, the stats with Rahm, because we know Rahm and DJ are unbelievable right now. Now, Patrick Cantley, reason why I like him a lot this week, he's been playing phenomenal lately. Comes in 8th in my model, 9th in strokes gained off the tee, 3rd in strokes gained par fours, 400 to 450. He is 7th in proximity, 175 to 200. Now, his other proximities aren't great, but pretty much everything else is top 20 or near top 20. Just playing a all-around great game. And I think that he's on a hot streak, and I think he's destined to win one of these weeks. Now, if we're going to look here, I told you I ran the model with Nicklaus courses and without. Cantley ranks 3rd in my model, and if you put it with all Nicklaus courses. So he clearly plays well on those types of courses. I do like Patrick Cantley this week as well. Now, in terms of ownership with Cantley, you're going to get him at 17.3% as the projected ownership per Fantasy National Golf. Yeah, they're high-owned guys. Like I said, all the guys up here, they're going to come along with ownership. You just got to figure out how to go away from ownership in other areas. Now let's go look at the 9K range. Well, actually, first I'll split it up and answer some questions here. Let's say there's a draft with 7 people and you have the 6th, meaning you also have the 9th on the turnaround. Who would you be targeting at those picks? Yeah, I mean, look, a draft, I know a lot of people do golf drafts. 6th pick, I mean, it obviously depends who goes first. You have the 9th on the turnaround. Who are you taking? I think there's some pretty good options if we're just looking in terms of the draft, I have the DraftKings prices up here. I mean, I mentioned I like Cantley. I mentioned I do like Bryson this week. I don't know if I don't think I mentioned him yet. Fenow I like as well. I think I like Brooks this week, but I'm going to get right into the 9K range and talk about that also. And I think that's why that question plays out so well, because a lot of those guys that would be falling 6 through 9 in your draft are the guys that are in this 9K range. So here's the thing with the 9K range. I pretty much like every single person in this range except for Patrick Reed. And honestly, if the course plays really hard, then it completely changes, because if the course plays really hard, that's right up Reed's alley. But I'm probably fading Reed, Webb, and Colin at 9,200, 9,100, and 9,000. Let me get the 9s up on the bottom here. But yeah, in terms of these guys, first of all, looking at my model, we got, Bryson De Chambeau, my favorite guy probably on the whole slate this week. I know he won there in 2000, I believe it was 15 in the NCAAs. That's not affecting my decision too much. I just think that this course is made out for him. It's a long course. He had one bad day last week. He missed the cut as a result. But I really do think he bounces back this week. 2nd in strokes gained off the tee, 4th in driving distance, but obviously could end up being a lot higher than that. The approach it's decent right now, but I think that the driver is going to be so important for Bryson this week. And I mean, I really do think it's going to play a huge difference. You heard that Paul Azinger quote that I read at the beginning. Driving distance 100% matters for this course. And, on courses that driving distance matters, I think that Bryson is your guy. Now, another reason why I think Bryson is so appealing this week, you have Bryson at an ownership discount at 12% right now. Why is Bryson at 12%? I don't know. But look, you get Bryson at low priced in the 9K range at $9,900. And you may get an ownership discount here. 12% projected ownership per Fantasy National Golf. That's pretty appealing to me. But yeah, I'm all over Bryson. I'm betting him at 20-1. Him and JT are my 2 outright bets this week for sure. Now we're looking at Tony Fenow at 9,800. Another guy who I like this week actually comes in ranked 1st in my model. Another reason, obviously a guy who's going to drive the ball far. He's been basically the Xander of the 9K range. He finishes high every tournament. Just why am I paying up for Xander when I could pay down $1,000 for Tony Fenow? In my opinion, Fenow probably fits this course better because he just drives the ball further. And yeah, I mean, just in terms of other stats with Fenow, you got here 5th in stroke gained approach last 24 rounds. 9th in strokes gained par fours, 400 to 450, 7th proximity 200 plus, 1st proximity 150 to 175, which is obviously going to matter a lot on this long course. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Fenow as well. He's going to come along with ownership like he always does at 17.2%, but I do like him. Other guys I like from this range, Terrell Hatton at 9,600. It's a guy we haven't seen in a while. He's been playing over in Europe and playing really well there. 17.9% ownership. Another guy. All these guys in the 9K range, other than the three I didn't mention, are going to come with high ownership. Again, the 8K range and the 7K range is where you will separate yourself in terms of ownership. And I think the 8K range and 7K range and even the 6K range, those are going to be the places that really separate you this week. Because I do think a lot of these guys in the 10s and the 9s are going to be high owned. It is going to be a small, it is a smaller field. So I think you get a little bit higher ownership with pretty much everyone across the board just based on math. But also like Brooks Kepka at 9,500, Victor Hovland at 9,400, Daniel Berger, 9,300. All these guys basically coming in at 16, 17% ownership. So I want to talk about Brooks Kepka quickly. Brooks Kepka, if you're looking at my original model that I ran here, he does rank 7th in it. Obviously, a guy who drives the ball far. Didn't play well last week. He didn't play awful, but he didn't play great. Obviously, won at Waste a few weeks ago. Brooks strikes me as the guy who's kind of an every other week guy. Like I feel like he gets he's gonna have a better finish this week than last week. 10th in strokes in driving, 10th in driving distance, 12th in strokes gained approach, 6th in strokes gained proximity, 150 to 175. 6th in proximity, 175 to 200. 12th in general strokes gained approach. Just look, Brooks looks like he's playing well lately. Again, 7th in my model. And I did mention that it's Bermuda grass, so I ran the model as well, taking into account Bermuda grass. And Brooks Kepka came in first in the model. I like Brooks a lot this week. And then also Hovland and Berger, just again, Hovland coming in at 9th in my model. Berger coming in at 15th, just two guys who have been in really good form lately, pretty much everywhere across the board. So I do like them as well. So that pretty much wraps up what I want to talk about with the 9K range. I didn't mention any direct stats for Terrell Hatton. Comes in at 20th in my model, ranks 1st in proximity 200 plus, 8th in strokes gained approach, 2nd in proximity 175 to 200. So look, you're always going to get good approach with Terrell Hatton. I think that's a major appeal to him. Will I get to him this week? Maybe. He's definitely not one of my favorites out of the 9K. If I had to pick my favorite out of the 9K range, would be Bryson De Chambeau at 9,900, Tony Fenow at 9,800, Brooks Kepka 9,500 for sure. Those three guys. Now we're going to move on to the 8K range here. We'll see if we got any questions. Remember, if you're watching this, just be sure to drop some questions in. All right, I do have some questions about the 8K range, but I'm going to wait until we get to it directly here. So 5 guys that I like in the 8K range here. Tommy Fleetwood at 8,900, Scotty Sheffler 8,300, Adam Scott 8,200, Joaquin Niemann 8,100, and Will Zalatoris at 8,000. So if you do realize here, I do like the guys who are ranked down between 8,300 and 8,000. Only one guy, Tommy Fleetwood at 8,900, is a guy that I like in the upper 8s. That mid 8K range, honestly, it's kind of ugly. I don't love it at all. You're going to get a lot of low ownership there, but I think that honestly, it's for good reason. Let's just read some of these names. So Sanjay Im actually is coming in at huge ownership, like 17%. I don't see why. I'm not a huge Sanjay fan here. Ranks 29th in my model, just not huge there. Cam Smith is not good on Nicklaus courses. Not huge on that. Homa, it's playing great, but tough ass to do it back-to-back weeks. Fitzpatrick and Matsuyama, I'm not huge on. Sheffler, I mentioned as a guy I like. Look, Scotty Sheffler, for whatever reason, has been coming in very low ownership lately, and he's been killing it. He is projected a little bit higher at 14.3% ownership as a result this week. Scheffler is a guy who drives the ball far, 20th in driving distance, and approach isn't great right now, but off the tee is really good. So Scotty Sheffler and recent finishes have been solid. Scotty Sheffler is a guy that I would take a chance on at 8,300, but I do want to talk about Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood, coming in at 6.4% ownership at 8,900. Yes, is 8,900 very high price for Tommy Fleetwood? For sure, but that low ownership is appealing. Now, I want to give you a important thing about a no-cut event like this. No-cut events, you don't have to worry about a miscut. You get all 4 days from your golfers. You get 4 opportunities to gain valuable points. That being said, I'm not going to be as worried this week about a guy shooting +7 on day 1. So I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my plays. We'll probably go after guys with low ownership for that reason. And Tommy Fleetwood, I mean, look, Is Tommy Fleetwood playing that well right now? No. Like, his form on the PGA Tour was pretty poor before he, spent a decent time in Europe. But here's a few stats that I do like with Tommy Fleetwood this week, and some of the reasons why I am going to play him for sure at $8,900. So Tommy Fleetwood in Europe, he's played his last 3 tournaments in Europe, and he hasn't been that bad. Again, the PGA Tour before he went to Europe, he was not good on the PGA Tour. In Europe, last 3 events, he finished 7th on January 20th at Abu Dhabi. He finished 17th in Dubai on January 27th, and then he finished at 26th at the Saudi on February 3rd. So a few decent performances decent to good performances from Tommy Fleetwood. Also ranks 8th in driving distance in the last 24 rounds he's played. So look, this is a guy who does drive the ball far, which does fit this course. And if you look at the Nicklaus filter that I put on this model that I have, trying to fit, Fleetwood comes in at 26, which is not that bad. He's played pretty well on the Nicklaus courses. As a result, I think that at 6.4% in a no-cut event, you don't have to worry about Tommy Fleetwood missing the cut. I think Fleetwood could be a pretty good option at this low ownership. Scotty Sheffler, I mentioned why I like him. Adam Scott, another guy, possible low ownership at 9.4%. Has he been great lately? Not really. I mean, if you look at my model, comes in at 22nd, which is not that bad. But look, Adam Scott, a guy who drives the ball far. He ranks 7th in driving distance. He ranks 9th in strokes gained par 4, 400 to 450. He ranks 11th in proximity, 175 to 200. I think Adam Scott is worth a try. Now, the number one reason why I think Adam Scott's worth a try, besides the fact that he hits the ball far, again, plugged in Nicklaus courses into my model, and he is first the last 24 rounds. He's first in my model. So at low ownership, below 10% in a no-cut event, I like Adam Scott for sure at 8,200. Joaquin Niemann, this is the question we got in the chat here. Also, Niemann at 8,100 is asking to be 50% owned. And I completely agree with that. He's projected at 18.7% ownership. He is probably, if I had to assume, he's probably going to be in the low 20s in ownership. I know his projection is at 18. I think he's going to end up at way higher. I mean, look, Niemann finished it. Niemann comes in ranked 5th in my model for this week. He's playing absolutely unbelievable golf. I don't see how I don't get to Niemann at all. Like he checks off all the boxes. He drives the ball far, 5th in driving distance. His approach is pretty solid. 9th on tour in strokes gained approach in the last 24 rounds. So yeah, Niemann is asking to be owned, but Niemann is the type of guy that I think needs to be owned this week. Like at least you could get away from him in some lineups, but you have to own him somewhere. I mean, Niemann's just playing unbelievable golf. I cannot believe that he is at 8,100 this week. And the same thing for Will Zalatoris at 8,000. Zalatoris, another guy that's playing really well. His ownership projection coming in not as high at 14.8%. Zalatoris comes in 6th in my model, drives the ball pretty far, 15th in driving distance. Great approach. He's a great approach player. Zalatoris is, if I had to guess, Zalatoris is going to win majors. He's playing unbelievable. 3rd in strokes gained approach last 24 rounds. 2nd proximity, 150 to 175. 11th in proximity, 200 plus. 16th in strokes gained par 4, 400 to 450. Zalatoris is another guy. So those two guys down there, but I do like the low ownership plays of Fleetwood and Adam Scott as well in the 8K range. You mentioned also Jay Wolin 5, that Scheffler has experience on this course. I assume that he played here in the NCAAs as well. I don't know the direct stats that he had. All right, we're going to move down to the 7K range here, and I apologize for not getting that banner up for the 8K range as I was talking about that. But we will go right to the 7K range here and talk about guys I like. So 7K range, here are the guys I like. Jason Day at 7,800. Justin Rose, 7,700. Sergio Garcia, 7,500. Shane Lowry, 7,200. Carlos Ortiz, 7,300. And Ryan Palmer, 7,200. We got a question about Ryan Palmer in the chat, so I'm going to directly answer that. Thoughts on Palmer at 7,200 and Kisner at 7,000? Feel like it's too good to be true. Will they be highly owned? So, Kisner. It didn't come up pretty high in my model at all. In fact, Kisner came 48th in my model. Doesn't really drive the ball far, so I wasn't that interested. Obviously, the putting and short game really helps him. I'm fading Kisner this week. Now, is Kisner going to be high owned? Sorry about that. Kisner is not going to be high owned at 8%. So if you like Kisner, be sure to go for it. I'm not huge on him this week. Now, in terms of Ryan Palmer, I mentioned that I do like Ryan Palmer this week. That being said, 18.2% ownership for Ryan Palmer. Are you really going to go down with Ryan Palmer 18.2 ownership? Now, he is playing phenomenal lately. Like, he is deserving of being higher than 7.2. He ranks 8th in my model, again, pretty much across the board. He ranks 1st in proximity 150 to 175 on Nicholas Court. Well, never mind. He's 8th in my model because in the Nicholas filtered model. In the non-Nicholas model, he is 14th, so still very high. Just generally a good iron player. Ranks 10th in strokes gained approach, 10th in strokes gained par 5. He's playing phenomenal right now. Has had a lot of good recent finishes. That being said, are you really going to go down with Ryan Palmer at that kind of 18% ownership? Came in 42nd at the Waste, but before that, second place, 41st at Sony, 4th in Century, 4th at the Zozo. So he has been playing well. Recent form is good, but he has had some decently bad mixed in tournaments there. I starred Ryan Palmer as a guy I like from the 7K range because I think he could play well this week, and I think he fits this course fine. That being said, I'm going to have a hard time getting to Ryan Palmer at 18% ownership. Now, other guys that I mentioned that I like, Jason Day and Justin Rose, two guys that I would probably never consider taking if it weren't a no-cut event. So this is what I talk about when I'm talking about being aggressive here. Jason Day coming in, projected 10.2% ownership. Justin Rose coming in at 12%. Both pretty low, pretty doable. Justin Rose at 35th in my model. Jason Day at 36th in my model. If you look at the Nicholas model here, where I put the Nicholas course filter into the model that I already had, Jason Day comes in at 15th. Justin Rose comes in at 17th. So both are pretty good on Nicholas courses. As I said, no cut event. So I like that. Now just other stats here for Jason Day and Justin Rose. Again, none of them have been playing that well lately. Now looking at Justin Rose's past performances. Yeah, so Justin Rose was not playing well, but he did finish second at Saudi. So decently, good, obviously very good performance before this. Jason Day, it's tough because you're usually worried about a withdrawal with him. 7th at Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Both those guys are good golfers. Both have experience, good experience, I should say, on Nicholas courses. So I do like Day and Rose this week with that low ownership you're going to get. Sergio Garcia, 3rd in my model in terms of the Bermuda filter. Going to come in at 10% ownership at 7,500. In terms of my general model for this week, he's 12th. 2nd in strokes gained off the tee. 3rd in strokes gained on par 5s. 11th in driving distance. Course fits Sergio pretty well, and as a result, I like Sergio as well. You're going to get an ownership discount with him as well. Now, two other guys that I mentioned down here: Shane Lowry at 7,200, Carlos Ortiz at 7,300. So with Shane Lowry here, Shane Lowry 27th in my model, Carlos Ortiz 19th in my model. If you go to the Nicholas filtered one that I did, Shane Lowry ranks 18th in the model, and Carlos Ortiz ranks 49th. So Ortiz, I think a lot of people are down on him, only projected 8.3% ownership. Now, why? Because he had a bad week this week, but he does rank 19th in my general model, and he does check a lot of the boxes. He is playing really good golf. Remember, last week, the Genesis, that was a really hard golf course. Like, for him to miss the cut, it happens, but I think Carlos Ortiz is still a good option at this low ownership. And Shane Lowry, decently far driver of the ball. I think this could be a decent week for him. At 6% ownership, I think it could be worth it. If the wind blows, I think that could possibly play into his favor as well. So Shane Lowry, another guy I like at 7,200. Now let's move into the 6K range. I think that there are some really good guys in this 6K range. Let me get the banners up below. Oh no, so I have a banner for the low 7K range. I don't have a banner for the 6K range, so I'm going to take everything off there. So guys I like for the 6K range here. We have Lee Westwood at 6,900. We have Lanto Griffin at 6,700. Rasmus Højgaard at 6,700. Cam Champ at 6,500. And Eric Van Rooyen, EVR, at 6,200. All these guys except for Lanto coming in at 7% ownership or below. Let's get to Lanto, who's the most projected own. Lanto Griffin at 6,700 is a ridiculous price. Like, let's get that out of the way. The guy in my model The guy in my model comes in at 17th. So why 9th in driving distance, 2nd in putting, 3rd in proximity 150 to 175. Lanto is a great play. Unfortunately, you're going to get him at 14.3% ownership. So you better make sure if you're taking Lanto at 6-7, you get to those low-owned guys in the 7K range, some of those low-owned guys in the 8K range for sure. But yeah, I like Lanto. And then in terms of other guys, so I mentioned Lee Westwood. Lee Westwood in my normal model comes in at 54th. So you would say, all right, Lee Westwood comes in low in the model. Now, if you put in the Nicklaus course filter, he skies up to 6th in the model. So Lee Westwood loves Jack Nicklaus courses. I think that could help him a lot. You know, obviously Westwood is an older guy compared to the rest of the tour, I should say, which will help him out a lot. Hasn't been playing great, just general form. Finished 50th at Saudi, 17th in Dubai, 62nd in Abu Dhabi, 146th at the RSM. Basically, I think you basically are hoping you get a top 20, top 25 out of Westwood, coming in at 4.1% ownership. I'll take my chances with that Nicklaus filter on this. You know, look, if I'm waiting it too much, so be it. But I like him as a cheap option at 6,900. Now I want to mention Rasmus Højgaard here. I played him at the U.S. Open. He's a young up-and-comer, and he is really, really good. Projected only 5.2% owned. He doesn't rank well in any of my models, like at all. Doesn't have any data on Nicklaus courses. In my actual model, he ranks at 42nd. So some promising stats for him. 18th in strokes gained par 5. 19th in proximity 200 plus. 14th in proximity 150 175. So he's a pretty solid iron player. Again, Rasmus is an up-and-comer. Let me just check on his... Let me just check. So yeah, I believe he is 18, maybe 19. So he's 19 years old, but he's playing really good golf lately. I picked him at the U.S. Open. I got screwed over because he was basically a first-time U.S. Open player, I believe, and went like +7 on day one. Last few tournaments: 6th at the Saudi, 9th at the Dubai Desert Classic, 25th at Abu Dhabi. Then back in October, he finished 37th in Bermuda. I think in a no-cut event, yeah, he might go +3 on the first day, but I think he could settle in with a no-cut event. He'll have less pressure on him. I like Rasmus as a shot in the dark, as a dart throw, right here at 5.2% owned. 6,500, I like Cam Champ. Cam Champ never plays well when I play him. 3.4 projected ownership, but drives the hell out of the ball. I mean, this guy hits it so far. I believe he's first in driving distance. So as a result, ranked pretty high up in my model. Yeah, Cam Champ ranked 16th in my model, 6th off the tee, strokes gained off the tee, first driving distance, 10th proximity 200 plus. Yeah, so Cam Champ plays really, really well. I shouldn't say plays really, really well. He hits the ball very, very far, which fits to a course like this very well. So look, do I think Cam Champ has a chance to bust? Yes. Is it a no-cut event? Yes. I'm going to be more aggressive with it with a guy like Cam Champ. And then the last guy, Erik van Rooyen, coming in at 6.4% ownership at 6,200. Just another guy. In his good form, he would not be ranked this low. Rank comes in 21st in my model. Fourth in strokes gained par 4 from 400 to 450. 10th in proximity 150 to 175. If you look at the Nicklaus model here, comes in at 36th. So yeah, I think at 6,200, Erik van Rooyen could be a pretty solid option. And that is it for the WGC Workday Championship DFS picks. If there's anyone in the comments right now, here's your last chance for questions. That being said, also in terms of betting, I told you I like JT at 18-1 outright, even though I'm not playing him in DFS. I think it's a great number. And Bryson at 20-1, who I will be playing in DraftKings. I think the course fits him great. He won the NCAAs here as well. Any other questions? Went through all the ones in the chat. All right. Next, hopefully we will get Glenn back soon. We will be able to do a pre-recorded show. But thank you everyone for watching. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at sports_Burd. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. And good luck everyone with your DFS lineups